Hi, I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Lovoni and Sarah podcast.
On today's episode, we're chatting about discipline with our special guest Charlene, a US Marine. When you have discipline in your life, you can make small sacrifices in the present for a better you in the future. Discipline creates habits, habits make routines, and routines become who we are daily. As you know, discipline is a big part of losing weight, getting strong and healthier, no matter your age.
Welcome, Charlene, and thank you so much for joining us on today's episode, Discipline.
Good morning. Thank you both for having me.
Thank you for coming along. Before we delve into what we think is going to be a really interesting episode, let's check in with how Lovoni and I did on our goals from last week. I had 2 goals last time. I had to up my strength training and increase my steps. So to catch up with that, my strength training is going really well. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult, but I'm doing it and I think my body's starting to react, so that's great. My steps haven't been quite as good. I've had quite a bit of time at my desk, so my steps are not as good as they should be, but I've had a weigh-in and I'm really delighted to announce I'm 10 pounds down since mid-April. So that's
well done, you.
Good progress.
You look like you've lost
really
weight. I thought that too in the photos.
Do I look like
that from Ascot that I saw?
Oh, when I was at Ascot.
Yeah. I thought that I could see it. That dress
did it look like
gorgeous.
I was going to fall down the cracks in the pavement?
Yeah. No, it did. Disappear. Yeah. No, but you can see it.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I definitely. Yeah, I start to feel it a little bit as well. So that's really great. How about your goals? How have you been getting on?
I think mine, if I remember rightly, was not going to go overboard while I was away for a week.
Yes.
Because I think that's a time where you could just go, screw it.
Enough of itself.
And just not worry. So I wasn't as virtuous as I would be if I was home. But I was mindful. I kept my portions smaller. You know, I did like veggies and dips for the drive up, made some wraps. So we didn't stop and get any takeout, drive-through stuff.
Yeah, fast food.
I did drink a lot of water, I have to say, because Minnesota was freaking hot and humid. And yeah, so I think that I was not great, but I wasn't as bad as I could have been, if that makes sense.
Well, that's all. Yeah, and that's all you can ask, really, isn't it? If you're away and on a mini break, you can't expect it to be the same as at home. So sort of moderated is great.
And we didn't, I thought we could have been cooking some breakfast things, but as well as the myriad of things that the place didn't have that it said, one of them was a fully functioning kitchen, which was missing a bench.
Really?
I had plastic knives and forks, which is fine, I can eat with those, but it wasn't the place that you want to cook anything.
It wasn't really functioning.
No, so it's just glad to be home. So anyway.
Fair dues. But you did okay. That's the main thing.
Did okay, and just trying to get back into the swing of things. I don't know. I think things just throw me off quite easily when it comes to my whole routine diet, exercise sort of thing. Yeah, so
you've only been back a couple of days.
Yeah, that's true. Feels like this is the longest week ever. That and the fact that I've screwed my back up. I know. Feels like it should be Friday. Oh, anyway, whatever. Okay, so today we're chatting to Charlene. Now, I met Charlene, how many years ago now, you reckon? 10-ish? 2006?
Yeah, about 2014.
16, I think we moved to Florida. Was it? I thought we didn't move to Florida. We moved, yes, because we moved back here in 2016. So my husband and Charlene's husband worked together, and that's how I met Charlene. So, yeah, that's right, about that time. And then we moved, that we were all living in Florida. We moved from Florida up here, and so did they, because Mark's from Indiana as well. Yeah, of course, he went to school near here.
We both are.
Yeah. So
we both are. So we decided to come back
all
home,
Hoosiers.
to the family and stuff.
And Lawrence and Mark, when they were kids, they were quite close to each other, I think, but they didn't know each other. But they lived near each other or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so they worked together.
School.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how I know Charlene.
Small world. Mm-hmm.
And so Charlene was in the Marines, and there's a saying, once a Marine, always a Marine. And we want to chat to her today about discipline, because I don't know if this is true, Charlene, but I'm sure it is. Because, if you read it online, it's true, right? That the Marine Corps is the hardest boot camp of all of the military. Is that true?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I didn't go to the other branches, but
right.
Definitely yes.
You've heard that? Okay.
Yes.
Now, what year did you join up?
Right out of high school, actually. I graduated midterm, and I went in 1986.
1986.
So I'm dating myself.
And, why?
Wow.
I don't think I've ever asked you that question. I know we've talked about it, but what made you want to join? And what made you want to join the Marines?
Well, I didn't want to go to college because it seemed like all of my classmates were talking about going to college. That just wasn't I was a great student. I had good, great grades.
Uh-huh.
I just didn't want to go to college. That wasn't my thing. So originally I was thinking about joining the Army because that was what you heard about all the time. And then my brother had actually joined the Marines, and he was talking to me about it. And I decided, you know what? I don't want there to be any doubts. This may sound a little arrogant, but I, at that point, had heard that the Marines were the best, and I didn't want there to be any doubts of whether or not I would have been able to make it. So I'm like, let me at least try it. If I make it, then
that's answered. Yeah.
And then I'll know. So
back then, so 1986, back then, I can't imagine that there was a lot of women enlisting in the Marines. Were you the only, were there more women in your unit? Because I know when Demi Moore joined in G.I. Jane. Remember that? She was the only one, right? So how many were there?
True.
Right? How many females were there in your unit?
In my platoon,
Platoon,
three.
Sorry.
There was three. And there was about 30 men, but the ratio was, because I did look it up because I couldn't quite remember. It was about 5% of the Marine Corps were females.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I've got
here. Research, because I couldn't remember. It was 100,000 Marines or male Marines and about 10,000 female Marines. So it was definitely a big ratio.
Yeah, 93
ratio gap, I should say.
Yeah, 93.5% male and 6.5% female. But I think that's now. I imagine when you enlisted that it was less than that.
It's about 5%.
Yeah.
10% now. It's about 5% back then. Yeah, so.
Can you talk us through...
We definitely got a lot of attention.
Right? Yeah. Can you talk us
And how old were you then? So what were you, 16 or something like that?
17.
17.
Yeah. I
wow,
signed up
so same age as my son now. Okay.
Yeah.
17.
When I still had energy and I was young and I could run and jump and do all that stuff.
But even at 17, I don't think I had that much energy to do that.
Yes, talk us through an average day. This is in boot camp, okay? Talk us through an average day in boot camp.
I believe we woke up, Reveille, was at 04:45 in the morning.
Okay.
And, of course, it started with the yelling, the screaming.
Get out of bed, maggot.
Get going and all this.
Drill sergeant.
Pretty loud, and nobody stayed in their racks for very long after that. Got up, got ready, went to the chow hall, stood in line, ate real quick, and it just went on all day. It was PT or physical training, which was in the form of running. We call it the daily 7 push-ups, side straddle hops, just a little bit of everything. There's 7 daily different exercises that we did as a group. We all did them in unison. We did them in cadence. So we were all together. We started together. We finished together. We'd usually go on, I believe, a 1.5 mile run. It's changed now. It's 3 miles for females now, I believe. But back then it was 1.5 miles. That was all we were required to do. And drill. We were out on the drill field or on the drill.
What does that mean?
Learning how to march with a weapon.
Okay.
March in unison, march in step. and then training in the classroom.
Where did
we even had classes on how to put on makeup?
Oh, seriously?
Yes.
Oh, to make sure that it wasn't too over.
Now.
To make sure it wasn't too over the top.
Yes.
Okay, right. Where was your training? What state was your training in?
It was South Carolina.
Oh, so nice and hot. Hot. It was.
And sand fleas.
Oh, nice.
But I was there in January to April, so I kind of got lucky, but I still got bit by quite a few sand fleas.
And did you sleep in, like, sorry if I'm not getting the wording right. Sarah's looking to think this just sounds horrible. The look on Sarah's face is like, I'm hating this. I'm never joining the Marines. Yeah, did you sleep in a barracks? Like, were you sleeping quarters, like, with everybody else? I imagine they were.
Yes, it was a giant squad bay, and it was racks or beds down on each side, and it was basically bunk beds, but they were metal, and one up, one down, and it went all the way down each side.
Men and women?
And you had lockers in the middle.
Men and women?
No. At this time, it's all just women. And women and men do not sleep in the same barracks squad bay together.
Right.
They've changed it now, so there's integrated training. But I'm glad I went when I did, because I felt like we were able to focus more on training instead of, hey, is that guy checking me out? Or, hey,
right.
You're all dirty and grungy at the same time now.
Right. Okay. Huh. And then, so it started at 4:45. What time did you go? What time were lights out?
Oh, gosh. I want to say 9, but you were already in bed and ready to go by then because you were so tired and so worn out.
Mm. And you had someone, this is what I read, that there's someone like screeching in your face a lot, the drill sergeant. Is that true?
Drill instructor.
Drill instructor.
Okay. And not to correct you, but we're really big on drill instructor because the Army is drill sergeant. But yes, we had 4 at any given time, with one senior drill instructor who is the head honcho, and you did not want to get her attention. We had all female drill instructors.
Oh, you did?
Oh, okay. What?
But now, I mean, we had male instructors for other courses, like pugil sticks and that kind of thing.
Pugil sticks?
The fighting with the big sticks.
Okay.
And other courses of training like rappelling, gas chamber. But now, I believe they have male and females both.
So did you only have female because you were just trained all together as females, or is that how they separated it? Okay, so the females had a female instructor. Yes,
correct. We were our own battalion.
Okay.
Which sadly was just recently disbanded because they have now got the integrated training. So that's a sad part of our history.
So when you did your training, because they separated you, were you expected as a female to do the same as the males, even though you were separated, or did they tailor it for females compared to males?
It was very similar. Like, we didn't do some of the stuff that the guys did, but we did the majority of it. Swim, qual, all of that. Like the physical training, it wasn't. We have what's called a PFT, or physical fitness test. So we had different parameters than what the guys did. But again, that's changed now, and it's all integrated, so everybody does the same.
Okay.
Back then it was different.
And is that because you think that they've evaluated it and found that the female human body can do the same as a male? I mean, it is, a man's body is stronger, isn't it? I mean, there's not really any denying that, is there? So is it the fitness that they expect you to be the same rather than strength be the same, or no?
Yeah, they're trying to make it more of the same because they're trying to get females more in a combat role. And some females have been effective. They've been able to be strong enough to pass all the same tests as a male, with the strength and humping the equipment and the weapons. And some just can't do it. And there are definite strengths and weaknesses between males and females.
Absolutely. I mean, you just can't, at the end of the day, their muscle, there's going to be exceptions to the rule. I do understand that. There's going to be some that are, but as a general rule, the male human body is a stronger setup, isn't it? So there's got to be some allowances, surely, for that.
Correct. Yes. And I think that's why they did it years ago. And now they're trying to be more integrated. And like you said, there are exceptions to every rule. You just have some that they're completely equal, if not stronger than men.
Yeah.
So how
Okay.
I wasn't one of them.
you were one of them that is stronger?
I wasn't as strong as a male by any means.
Right. Did you have days, or was this maybe every day, where you just had to dig so deep and think, oh my God, I just can't do this? But you just had to mentally be strong and just keep pushing through it. I mean, did that happen?
Oh, yes, all the time.
Right.
But you're also not an individual. The Marine Corps breaks you down, and this is true for all boot camps. They're supposed to do this. Like I said, I can't speak for the other ones, but for us, they deliberately break you down as an individual, and then they build you back up as a team so that you're always going to look out for your fellow Marine, and they're going to look out for you, your brothers and sisters. Once you go through boot camp and you graduate, no matter what military occupational specialty you have, you're all together. So you don't want to let your teammate down. You don't want to let your fellow Marines down and be the weak link. And that right there, I think, is a big push, because I hurt my knee when I was in, and I went to sick call and was on light duty for a little bit, and just trying to walk up the stairs until it got a little bit better. Well, not walk, run. Pretty much run everywhere. They're like, come on, and just you don't want to let them down. So that was a big part of that discipline, is you didn't want to be that weakest link, because you'd hear about it and you'd feel really bad. That's really interesting. Can I just ask you a question about that? So when they break you down, I guess that's by the intense physical sort of challenges and training that they give you. Is that what you mean? They kind of really push your physical body to the absolute limit. Is that what you mean? To a degree, it's physical, but it's also mental. Everybody goes in. We all have our individual personalities. Like when you're in high school, you have your cliques, your groups. Yeah. And when you go into boot camp, they don't need individuals. No. They need everybody to function as a team. Be the same. So it's mental and physical. So. And do you think at that point where you've kind of reached this point where you've taken all of your own personality away, just thinking about that now, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but to where you are now, do you think that almost that's a really useful tool to almost break that apart from you, to then restructure to create this vision of how you want to get to it? Do you think that is a useful tool, or do you find it was a bit excessive and only really valid in that sort of situation? Oh, it was completely a tool. I use it till this day, and I think a lot of Marines and service members do. You get that discipline, and I guess it's something that never really leaves you. Obviously, we all make excuses for the behaviors that we want to do. Yeah, I've certainly done it. I've certainly justified eating all kinds of junk that I shouldn't have eaten, or doing stupid stuff that I shouldn't have done. But, in the end, it's like you do have that discipline there. And I think that's why a lot of people like to hire militaries, because that discipline is still there. That work ethic and your morals, because they really, really drum it into us. But fundamentally, it's something that's had to have been created through the training that you went through, rather than just something that you can just call upon from the back of your mind of, you've had to learn how to do it, rather than it being just something that's instinctively built in you. I think it's a little bit of both, that some people just have that discipline. But for me, I think the Marine Corps definitely helped me to have more discipline than I normally would have. Because years ago, I had that mentality that if I quit, like with running, I sucked at running. I just could never seem to catch my breath. But I was able to be a Marine for 12 years until I screwed up my knee in drill instructor school, and that ended my career. But, before that, before I got hurt, it's one of those, if you quit now, you're always going to quit. It's like, don't let yourself quit, because it's going to keep happening. It's going to be too easy the next time to make that other excuse. So that is what helped me. That's interesting, isn't it?
I like that.
So it's not letting yourself down as well as other people around you.
Correct. I think so, yes.
Okay, so what's harder?
And so would you...
sorry.
Yeah. No, carry on.
No, what you want? What were you going to ask?
Carry on. I was going to say, would you say that you had that sort of discipline that you recognised in yourself before you did that camp? So would you class yourself as a disciplined individual, or has it just been something then that you've just described as being learnt?
I'd say the majority of it was probably learned.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
What's harder?
Sorry, Lovoni.
No, what's harder? Marine boot camp or trying to lose weight?
Lose weight.
Isn't that amazing?
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've already talked about this, so I knew the answer, but I wanted other people to hear it. Because,
why? Why?
Well, like I said, before when I went in, I was 17. I was, 110, 112, my weight. So I was already thin. I was already moving. I was in shape. And again, I didn't want to let anybody down because you just don't want to be that person. You don't want, there was I think we started out with maybe 30, 35 females. And I can't remember how many we graduated, but we lost quite a few along the way for one reason or another. And I didn't want to be the one to let them down. But so I didn't really have any excuses because you got somebody yelling and screaming and telling you exactly where to go, what to do, where to eat, when to eat, how quickly you need to eat, what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat. So you get out, and then you're just like, oh, well, I can eat whatever I want now. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I told myself, when I get out, I'm never going to run again. And I haven't. And
listen, I'm running from a bear.
Because I didn't have to. And part of it's because that's why I ended up getting out, is because I screwed up my knee.
Right.
So, yeah, it's much harder to lose weight because it's too easy now to make excuses and to justify.
But what you've just described there, and what I'm hearing then, is when you were in boot camp, you were part of a network and you had support, even though it might be instructional. It was basically a supported web, wasn't it? So whether it was someone telling you what to do, whether they were pushing you, shouting at you, or then, as you described, not wanting to let other people down, that whole web of support network meant that you were one of many. As soon as you're out and then you've got your own decisions to make, that support web has just completely disappeared, hasn't it? So that potentially is one of the differences. So Lovoni and I have talked about the fact that she and I support each other. We check in, we ask, even through this, the recording of the podcast, each week we ask how our goals are, and hopefully everyone listening can then do the same for themselves or share it or even let us know. We'd be really pleased to hear about it. But do you think that's quite a fundamental difference that you feel on your, singular now as opposed to something which was a big network?
Yes, and I actually feel embarrassed sometimes that I'm not thinner because I feel like as a Marine I should be. But I'm on Facebook. I'm in some groups with some other Marines, different ones that we're part of. And so I see other guys, and I say guys because that's the majority of it, and they've all gained weight. And so I was like, oh, so maybe I don't feel so bad because this is just natural and this is just part of the aging process. Mm-hmm. And then I see some of these guys that are like 60, 70 years old and they're like still running 3 miles every day and doing their pull-ups and push-ups. And I'm like, okay, well, that blew that out of the window, so I really don't have to do those. So, yeah. But yeah, I feel like I should be in better shape from being a Marine.
Why do you think it's so hard?
It's that comparison.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to find or to have that discipline? I don't know whether you have discipline. I don't know how, or to develop it. I don't know, it's something you have or develop, or I'm sure part of it comes from having like a strong mindset or the will to do it. But why do you think it's so hard for people to have that? I mean, does everybody need to go and just sign up for something? I know in some countries it used to be men had to go and do some sort of military training. The women didn't, but the men did. Mm. But, I mean, that's not a bad thing to do, really. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that I need to start a boot camp. Don't you think? We need to do that.
And I know they've got boot camp things out there to help people get in shape. And that works for some people. That won't work for me.
No.
Because been there, done that.
Right.
I don't need it again. I've already been. I know what I need to do.
Right.
And I know how to do it. I just make excuses not to do it.
So what do you need to do? Go on, Charlene. What do you need to do?
My biggest thing that is bad for me is, a couple of different things. I have a really bad sweet tooth. I love candy, crunchy candy, like Nerds or Smarties or something like that. So that's one of my biggest things that I will go to. And it's not stress. It's not anything. It's just, it's there. And it's like something to keep my hands and my mouth busy. Because I'm not a gum chewer or anything like that. I can, but it's just not my thing. So a lot of it is just habit, I think. And I should be able to just get up and walk and exercise. And part of it too, I think, with my background is I almost feel like I don't have to prove anything to anybody because I already have proved it to myself. And I don't feel like I brag that I'm a Marine. I'm not embarrassed. Obviously, I'm not. I'm very proud of it, extremely proud of it. But I don't let that define everything that I do. But again, there's that feeling that does come back that you should be in better shape. You should be setting the example because you did do this and you should have that discipline. And it's so easy to make excuses. I'm really good at making excuses.
Oh, yeah, you're in
But
good
I'm also
company.
hoping to find a new job with the less stress that I will, take more time for myself and work on my dietary habits because I won't be able to go through a drive-through. I would justify, I got to go out and do an inspection. I got to get up on this roof. So, let me just go through a drive-through because that's for me. I don't have to share it with anybody. And I'm not trying to hide that I'm doing it, but it's just for me. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where my brain has gone. Like, because I have 4 kids. They're all older and grown and gone. But, that's how I was justifying going through a drive-through. And it still kind of stayed with me, which is weird.
So...
And I think that I was just going to say that sort of, it's almost just listening to you from the outside. It's almost like you've gone the complete opposite of the way that you had to, or you did live your life for 12 years, which obviously is incredibly intense. It's something which there's no option. You have to deliver it. And then as soon as you've been given the option not to, it's just like almost relax. Okay, I'm not doing that now. But then habit, as you said, kicks in, and then that rolls on for too long. So how long have you been out of the Marines?
Don't ask me to do math, but I got out in 98.
Oh, okay. Me neither. Oh, quite a while then.
Long time.
25 years.
But you were also based in Japan too, so I think that probably added another level to it, didn't it? Being in another country as well. Weren't you in Japan?
Yes, I was in Okinawa for... I ended up being there for a total of 3.5 years. So I got to experience the culture over there and the food. And ironically, Okinawa is one of the healthiest countries out there because of their diet, the fish, the seafood, the rice. They live a really, really long time. I should have adopted their diet and stuff.
That is okay.
But we're so American over here. Everything is just laden full of fat and junk. And I was looking at some things on TikTok, which I'm an addict on. And some of the stuff that we have in our foods are banned in other countries. They're banned in the UK. And it's like, yeah, why are we eating this?
Yeah, and have been banned for years. It's a food product, exactly. But you know how you can get around that, don't you, Charlene? I'm going to say the C word. I'm going to say it. Cooking.
Cooking.
I don't like to cook.
But you know what? You were doing really well for a while with that book. The one that, that you cooked some meals. And
yesterday, Lovoni had given me, she had given me a book one year. I think it was either for Christmas or my birthday. I think it was my birthday. And it was cook once, eat all week. And I was cooking meals out of that left and right, and we had extra, and it was one of the healthiest things, and it was so nice and so easy. And I think I need to get back into that again.
And Mark helped you too, didn't he? Charlene's husband was
run down the road and go through a drive-thru.
Yeah, no. See, I can't do that here, as you know. We live in the culinary desert. But I think having that, that's preparation. Because the discipline and preparation, they go together, right?
Hand in hand.
Hand in hand, yeah. And I think, if you just like, I don't feel like cooking, and then you think, well, I've got that food there, it's easy just to heat something up, stick it in a wrap, So that's going to be one of your goals, isn't it? To go back to that.
Absolutely.
And I mean, just start small. You don't have to go like hell for leather. Just start small. I know that you wouldn't, that you'll just like throw yourself in, won't you? When you do start to do it.
Throw myself in. I've got other people that have left, and they've also lost weight when they've left this job to go to other places. And I think a lot of it is the stress. I don't feel like I stress eat, but I think it's correlated. And you just kind of just.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever stop and think when you're doing it? Do you ever stop and think, why am I doing this? Like what? Like is something triggered? Because that's what I've started to do. And it started when Mum died. And I remember standing in the kitchen just shoveling food in my face. It was just a trigger to that was how I responded. When John died, when my father died, it was a complete opposite. I just thought like I was going to be sick. But what I'm trying to be more aware of now is that the why I'm doing it. When I suddenly just, apart from being hungry, just like, just shoveling food in and thinking, okay, what's going on in your life? Because sometimes you think, oh yeah, I always used to think I wasn't an emotional eater. And I think until you stop and you think, okay, what is actually going on? What's really bothering me? And digging down a bit deep, that you think, yeah, I am. And it's a way, I don't know about you, but for me, it's a way to just, it's a buffer, between what's going on and, how I'm feeling, and the food just, it's like a balm, just soothes that. But it's very temporary because then I beat myself up about it. I mean,
absolutely.
Guilt.
Yeah. Sarah has no guilt.
I've always got to have something sweet near me. And if I don't have something sweet, or I know something there is sweet that I can get to, I start thinking, okay, well, what do I need to do to get that?
Peach truck subscription.
It's a constant.
Sorry.
But you know what's really interesting is that I'm just thinking though, all of these things is absolutely true, Lovoni. I think, and both of us have worked really well at recognizing the triggers and why we're doing something. But I'm just trying to work out in my own mind about the discipline that Charlene's described when she was in boot camp. It's irrelevant the why. The discipline which has to happen in your mindset is you just have to do. So yes, I think it's important that we recognize those triggers so that we can nip them in the bud. But that discipline that you so sort of clearly described to me, that I'm thinking that's the bit that you need to grasp a hold of when you're making these decisions. Yeah. So we know the reason why. Okay, that's great, but that's sort of irrelevant now for the actual action which needs to happen next. So Charlene, why is it, do you think, that you can't activate that skill and that training that you learn, which is a mindset which must have been rock solid because you did it for so long and so successfully? Why do you think you can't turn that on now with regards to this challenge that's in front of you?
I've actually thought about that quite a bit, and I feel like it's because I've gotten comfortable.
Right.
And when you get to a certain point or a certain size, you kind of feel like you're invisible. And no one is really watching you or staring at you because you blend in. Because our country and even the world, everyone has gotten a lot bigger. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the norm now. And when you're skinny and you're fit or in shape, I mean, it's really nice to look at, and you're like, oh man, I need to be like that. I need to do that. Why can't I?
Does it feel unachievable?
It is achievable, but like I said, I really feel like we get comfortable, and it's like, how bad do you want it? Well, apparently you don't want it bad enough.
So discipline then, is discipline quite uncomfortable? This is the thing we've got to get used to, the fact that discipline actually may not be a pleasant thing to do, but what you get as a result. That's quite a crux of something what you've just described there, is that discipline's uncomfortable, or it can be, and sometimes it's automatic, but sometimes it's going to be something that you will not enjoy doing, but you do it anyway. I'm sure that 90% of the time when you're in boot camp, you probably didn't enjoy it, but you did it anyway. But what you did enjoy was the result of you delivered. You were a successful Marine at the time, as you described, the hardest thing that you could go into. You gave yourself quite literally the hardest challenge and was succeeded and was successful at it. So maybe, Lovoni, that's what we need to, try to get comfortable, Will, is the fact that it's uncomfortable. We have to just,
I read this statement, and I don't know whether I read it on one of the military websites, but it said this: seeking out and undergoing daily discomfort is critical to building discipline. You will face countless challenges, obstacles, and hardships, but you must complete the mission regardless. And that's, I think I read it on a thing where they were building, it was a boot camp for like a pre-boot camp, right? But that is just exactly what you were saying, that it's daily discomfort is critical to building discipline. And I think that people have to accept, like just not embrace it, but accept it. It's not going to, it's not an easy thing.
Yeah,
you just have to accept it. Mm-hmm. Right. But, and it's that what we've talked about before, those small sacrifices, which sounds like an awful sacrifice, sounds like an awful word, but lead to, like, it's the bigger picture, you know, get you where you want, that's the bigger picture. But, yeah, definitely.
And I tried to analyze it myself, and I think one of the reasons that it's so hard for me to start is because in my mind, and maybe other people's minds, once you start, you feel like you have to keep going. And if you don't, you feel like you failed. Even if nobody knows that you're doing it.
So the risk of failure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and nobody wants to fail. Nobody deliberately says, okay, well, I'm going to do this for 5 days and then I'll stop, but I'll start again because it's so easy. It's like once you start, you feel like you have to keep going. And if you stop, then game over, then why bother? That's kind of where I feel like I'm not as disciplined anymore, because I don't want to get into it and then stop. And I think I've heard it takes 21 days to build a habit.
I don't know how true that is.
So,
but yeah,
I think
it takes a bit of time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's effort. You know, if you then think, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, and then your heart sinks for a few minutes and think, oh, I just don't want to. it's that effort, but then that's when the discipline has to kick in to say, I know you don't want to. Actually, you're not going to want to do it later. You're not going to want to do it tomorrow or the next day. Yeah. So just go and do it anyway. And then even when I'm doing it, I hate it.
Do you really?
But then I come out and that's when I go, yeah, I do, because I really try, and I'm like, I hate this with a passion, but I come out and I'm like, but the achievement is, look what I've done,
and the
so
endorphins.
I'm setting my own with my
too.
Yeah, some of that, but some of it's for me because I'm setting myself targets, because Charlene, I'm recovering from surgery last year, so I'm trying to get stronger and fitter and healthier, and also ahead of a second surgery towards the end of this year. So there's things that I've never been able to do because of lack of movement with some of my joints, that I'm trying to set targets that I am now trying to push myself, and I mean push myself, to be able to do. So yesterday at my session, I was able to do one of those things 5 times. So it took me 30 times of trying to get there, and 5 of those I actually managed to do it. But, I came out and I was absolutely elated. Well, you know what, I've done that probably for the first time in 40 years that I've been able to do it. But while you're doing it, it's painful. I'm sweating. I'm boiling hot. I'm out of breath. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. But it's that discipline in your mind to say, but just do it anyway, and the result will be something that you love. And I think that's the bit you've got to try and tap into, isn't it? It's going to be uncomfortable, you're going to hate it, but what you will love is the result. So when you were in boot camp, the result was you were part of this team, you weren't letting anyone down, you were creating all of these successes for yourself. It's that you've got to try and tap into, isn't it? But I wonder if some of the things you've described with the support web and the people telling you what to do, how can we create that for ourselves then? So how do we be our own sort of drill instructor, or how do we be our own support? Yeah, how do we do that?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure if I have the answer. If I did, I'd probably be
doing it.
Yeah, but I've thought about it a lot, and I've done research. I've done countless amounts of research on it because I'm an investigator. I just not investigator, but I am. I just like to know things. And I've also heard that when you tell certain people, if you tell people what you're doing, some people thrive on that and they like that encouragement. But I found that if I tell somebody that I'm doing something, such as I'm working out now or I'm eating better, you start getting, oh, that's wonderful, that's great. So you've almost got those accolades before you've even done the work.
Pressure. Mm-hmm.
So it almost feels like, well, I've achieved it, even though you haven't.
So they're rewarding you to even for even doing it without actually getting the result of what you've been doing.
Yes. So you don't feel like you have to.
That's true. I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just well done for even considering going on a diet or whatever. Yeah.
This was
kind of how my mind works.
This was something that that I wrote down that I thought was interesting. Is one of the reasons we don't have self-discipline is because we run from the hard, uncomfortable things. We would rather do the easy, comfortable, familiar things. So instead of facing our hard, uncomfortable projects or finances or, whatever it is that you need to be focused on, in this case, we're talking about weight loss, working out, that we run to distractions. So you use, whatever, whether it be work, computer,
Smarties.
food, Smarties, yeah. They're running, and so this running from the discomfort is ruining lives. It can ruin, your life. I thought that was interesting, really, when you think about it. In a nutshell, it sounds like they're describing someone that's lazy, but
well,
hey,
it's that feeling like I described when I just think I don't want to do it. That gut feeling that just says I don't want to, but you've got to push through that. So whether that's cooking your own food or, like you were describing, Charlene, going through the drive-through, really it's taking the easy route every time. Going through that drive-through is the easy route. The harder route is to either prepare a salad, or the middle route, if that is buy a salad, I guess. But the best, the hardest route would be to prepare your own. It's not even that difficult, but it just takes a bit more effort, doesn't it, than going through the drive-through. So when you're faced with these two decisions all of the time, easy or the hard, and it's generally probably the hard one that's going to get you the result you want, but are you prepared to be disciplined enough to take that harder route? And that's what we're asking people to do, really, isn't it? Or suggesting what people should do if you want the result.
Right. I think with me starting my new job, well, I know it's going to be easier for me to be on track, because I won't have the excuse to go out and, I'm not doing inspections anymore. I'm going to be at home all the time because I don't need to go out. My job will be right in front of my desk. So I won't have that excuse, and I'll have to prepare the meals because the food.
Well, I'll just flag this up to you though, because both Lovoni and I do work at home, not in the same home, in our own home. So, and it's not easy all the time, is it, Lovoni? No. Because it's also, you have another distraction because it's always there, and that's the other problem.
And that's another level of discipline too, is getting up.
It is
at a certain time.
Eat all day.
Yeah, getting up at a certain time. And this is, where the whole preparation for me is key, is that, I know what I'm going to have that day to eat, more or less. And, and I know I cook for a living, but I often have that, God, I don't feel like cooking. I've been writing about it or, doing stuff with food, and now I don't want to have to cook. But once I start into it, it's, it's good. I think often, like the same with exercise, it's more the thought of it than anything. And I think the same rings true for a lot of people. It's just the thought of it. And that's, I've said before on episodes that if I didn't have that banter back and forth with myself all the time, whether it be exercising or, the food or whatever, how much brain or how much energy it would free up. But when you have that constant, I need to, it's hard, I've got to, that whole thing, go and do it, and then you don't, and then the excuse, that's mentally exhausting. Whereas if you just, get up and go and exercise, or, go and eat a decent breakfast and exercise later. Like, I'm a morning exerciser, Sarah prefers it in the afternoon. But instead of having that constant excuse banter, if you just did it, then that would just, it's a lot less stress.
Yeah, and also it is stress, a lot of stress, and it's also then what Charlene described as letting yourself down. So you've got then that mental conversation, whether you then realise it or not, that if you've told yourself you're going to and then you don't, and as you described, Charlene, of that whole, if I launch into this, then I have to do it, and if I don't, then I'm going to let myself down. And a bit like then you described at the beginning of this episode, it's sort of, if I let myself down once, then that's almost set the tone that I can always let myself down. And that's the constant dialogue in your head, isn't it? That I think you've just got to try and, there is no secret answer from what I can gather from, from listening to you. Basically, it's just a case you just have to do it. And that's the uncomfortable discipline. That,
and not think that it's an all or nothing thing, because that's what I'm kind of hearing from, Charlene, like that it is an all or nothing. Because I guess you're, that in being a Marine is an all or nothing. You're either in or you're out. There is no sort of that wishy-washy grey area. And I think that for somebody that, wants to lose weight, wants to get healthy, that's me, just starting small, just doing something, just doing one thing that is going to help, whether that's 5 minutes a day, whether it's, not having, treats on that day or something, just something small rather than that all or nothing mentality. And I think a lot of people that go into this have that mentality. They think deprivation, hard, all those words that have such negative connotation, rather than, I'm going to try and make this fun and have little goals. And that is just so awesome to reach those, rather than that whole big picture thing, which at the end of the day, that's what we're aiming for. But it seems unachievable a lot of the time.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So it's trying to also let go, I think, of that all or nothing, because I'm a bit of an all or nothing person too, but I'm learning through, just trial and error not to be. And not to then, if I've done something positive for my health, not to then go and undo it. And if I do, not to beat myself up for it and think, okay, fuck it, that's it, I'm done,
Yeah.
Rather than just keep on
going.
Then
I guess with Charlene, that's going to be a change of mindset for you, because the discipline that you've learned can still be carried forward for now, but you're going to have to adapt it and tweak it a little, aren't you? Because it was all or nothing then. And as you just said, if you've got this fear that if you start and don't finish it, you're failing and you've let yourself down, it's almost just to break that down into a much smaller chunk if you can, and still then apply the discipline to that small chunk rather than it being the whole thing. So maybe, and if it's just you set, like today I'm going to cook my own food, whatever that might be, it doesn't mean that for a whole month you've never had a drive-through, because potentially that's a bit unrealistic for you in that first period of time. But if you can use the learnt discipline that you've described for one day, and just make those decisions for one day, and then you've just created that little block for yourself. And I think that's how I'm going to, the takeaway from this, I think for me, will be exactly as you described, Lovoni, make it a smaller chunk so that I can create success for that small chunk, whatever it is. But I've also, listening to you, Charlene, accepted the fact that I'm probably not going to like every decision that I'm going to have to make, and I'm going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable some of the time, all of the time, whatever it takes. And just then keep building and adding to it. I think that's what I've learned from today.
Because small changes.
Definitely mental. I think it's definitely mental. We get in our own way so much.
That's so true. Yeah, we do. And, and then the negative self-talk. Both of those things, aren't good. That, it's so hard.
Yeah.
I've got to lose weight. You think diet. You think hard work. Well, yeah, but I've said this before. What's wrong with hard work? Why? When did that become? When did that become a
Don't
problem?
Be scared of it.
And something, Charlene, we've talked about on another episode, is that just changing that mindset. Instead of telling yourself, "I have to do it," it's I get to do it. I get to work out. I get to eat healthy food. I get to cook my own food rather than I have to do it. I thought that was an interesting thing to, and I think that's something you just have to keep reminding yourself of, even if you don't necessarily, believe it. So, steps to helping discipline.
Great, I agree with that.
Right. So, some to develop self-discipline. Okay, I'm gonna read off a few steps here. See if you both agree. So, you want to choose a goal, right? Find your motivation. See, I think that's a bit of bullshit because motivation isn't something to be
I don't think you
found. I mean, some people say, okay, I want to lose weight, but I want to lose it to fit into a dress or something to go to a wedding. But then I think, well, then what? No, that's identify obstacles. But another thing there is you're already setting yourself up for failure. I don't know if you do that.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you on that. I think it's probably, for me, it's good to be aware of the trip hazards.
Right.
So that, quite literally sometimes, but anyway, to be aware of those trip hazards so I can be prepared to then have something ready to get around it. So a bit like you described when you were going on your road trip. The hazard was that you'd go through drive-thrus or pick up rubbish food. I think for me, that's what that means. So that if you're aware of that, then you got prepared, you made your vegetables, your hummus, you took your food with you in the car so that you can avoid going down what would be the easy route of getting the junk food, whatever. So I think that is for me, that is a worthwhile thing.
Okay. Replacing old habits and monitoring your progress, which is the thing that keeps me going because when you see that you've lost weight, Sarah and I usually weigh ourselves on a Friday, Charlene, and, report to each other. I didn't last week because I was in an Airbnb, and they didn't have scales amongst other things. But so far this month, I think it's like 12 or 14 pounds, something like that I've got it written down.
Yeah.
That I've lost.
15. Well, since you went...
Yeah, I'm just doing June. Yeah, so June, because I think when... Yeah, because I think from, when I went to the doctors, I think I put some on when I was over in the UK.
Right.
And then, but just this month, I think it's like 14 pounds or something that I've lost. And so,
that's
like,
amazing.
that's, that gives me, pushes me, and I want to keep doing that. And I like how it makes me feel. Even though I know I've got a lot more to go, I just like how it makes me feel.
And you don't have to justify that. I think that's great. I think that's the other thing. Don't do that. Don't go, but I've got... That bit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Celebrate and recognise your achievement, that's not a small amount of fat to be disappearing off your body. Right. That's what you've done. You've got rid of the fat off your body. So that's great.
I just can't wait till it gets to that point where people start to notice. But I think that for me will probably be around like the 30-pound mark where, someone could see me and think, oh, yeah, you look like you've lost weight. Whereas, right now it's just, I can sort of see that I have, but nobody else would.
You can see it and you can feel it, and that's all that... Right. I don't know. I think if someone saw you every day, they probably would.
Right. So, yeah. Anyway. So, I think, I don't know if you guys agree with me, that some people have a higher capacity for self-control, don't you think, and discipline? There are some people that are just so good at it, regardless of whether they've been through any boot camp or anything. They just have a stronger need to be in control, I think, and can therefore, they can, like, they're organised, they plan, they're goal-orientated, attentive to detail, all those kind of things, persistent and motivated. But I think persistent is the thing. Like with the discipline, there has to come consistency and persisting at this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't you think, Charlene?
It's not going to be done. It's not going to be done in one day, is it?
No.
Because I mean, that's the thing, Charlene. You had to get up every single day at boot camp, and you had to do the same thing, and you had to keep delivering. It wasn't like you would. How long was boot camp?
3 months. Just under 3 months.
Wow. God, that's so hideous. But I think even 3 days would be like, oh man.
But I mean,
well, we also didn't have snacks, so that was
right.
No snacks, constant movement.
But
focus. You didn't have those side distractions, no TV, none of that.
Right. And no excuses because you couldn't do that. But I mean, you've talked about how, when you went, when you joined up, you were 17, and how, at 17 you were fit and all the rest of it. But mentally, at 17, you're not mentally in that place. I can't imagine. Like me at 17 and me now, I have so much. I can focus better. I know the right things to say to myself. Doesn't mean I always do it, but I think at 17, I mean, don't you think mentally that meant you're just not at that point where you can be disciplined? So I think, obviously that's something that you have there. I don't know. No, really. I just someone screaming at you.
When you go in, you got to learn how to keep your mouth shut.
Right.
Yeah, that's the hard bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I think there's already discipline there, but it wasn't just boot camp. It was also just the whole time that I was in. You had structure. We had weight standards that we had to make sure that we maintained. We had to make sure we looked good in our uniforms, because if we didn't, we could get in trouble for that. We could get written up for it. And again, I'm sounding arrogant and stuff, but I feel like we do look the best. I feel like we have the best uniforms, especially the dress blues. And there's that pride. So you wanted to also, even though you had to stay in shape and you had to be fit, and they made time to be fit, you still had to have that discipline to do it on your own, because you could still go home at night or go back to the barracks at night and order pizzas and drink beer and do all kinds of stuff and put on the weight. And people did. And they paid for that. They had to go special PT to, physical training to get back in shape, and had to be on the radar. And nobody wanted that. It was a stigma.
Right.
So basically you were accountable, weren't you? So you were accountable to someone else to make sure that you hit all of those targets. So we need to be making ourselves accountable to ourselves or to someone else externally, which is why people joining weight loss groups works for some people, doesn't it? Because you're accountable to someone else each week, checking in. That's another technique that I think is a good thing to try and add for those that find it works for them. It doesn't work for everybody, but making yourself accountable to someone, if it doesn't work by just being accountable to yourself, then I think that's another tip or trick that you could add to your approach.
Right. And that's a great point, because that doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for me. I don't mind going to a gym and working out, but I don't want a physical trainer telling me what I need to do. I know what I need to do. I just don't want to do it. And like Lovoni said, don't look at it as you have to. Oh, I get to do this, or look at this beautiful fruit. I get to eat this. A lot of people don't get to eat this healthy fruit. They're eating stuff out of boxes and packages, and it's junk.
Yeah.
It's quick, it's easy, but it's not good.
Do you think even just from talking about it, like, the three of us talking about it today, does that, because I always find after these podcasts that I feel quite, bolstered, that,
inspired.
It inspires me to keep going. So do you think that, after chatting about it, do you think that's just going to give you a bit more of an oomph to,
Yeah, it's definitely empowering. And whoever may be listening to this could maybe relate to some of the stuff we're saying and be like, yeah, you know what? That actually resonated with what one of us three may have said at some point. Just listening to you guys talk too, I learned things like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. Like, get to eat, get to do this. And yeah, discipline is, it's hard, but so's life.
Right.
Yeah.
So choose your heart. And choose your why.
And it's like anything. Like, you can have all the money in the world, But if you don't have your health, then what's the point of it? And that's what, when I was younger, I would exercise and, eat right. And that was, because I wanted to stay slim. Well, now I want to be healthy. I want to feel strong. Mm-hmm. I want to feel vibrant. I want to be able to just glow, not from not from a vanity point of view, but just to just feel like I'm glowing because I'm feeling healthy and I'm feeling confident and and I think that to me is more important than anything is the look of it. It's just the feeling healthy and being healthy, because without it, mm-hmm. Everything's a chore.
And I've thought about this too, and I may have mentioned this before, but I think that when I was in, the ratio was so different. So anytime, you'd see a female Marine, you would get the attention, you would get the stares, and you were aware of it, but it didn't bother me because I was still part of the group. So I think that's probably why I'm comfortable now with the weight that I've gained, is because I don't have all of that attention. I've blended, because I'm not a showy person. I don't like to stand out. I like to sit back and I like to observe. I don't want people staring at me, judging me, whether I know they're judging me or staring at me or whatever. I just don't want it. I just want to blend in. So I think that's part of the reason that I've stayed where I'm at and hasn't pushed out of losing this weight, because I blend.
So do you want to lose weight, or are you
No, I need to
comfortable?
now.
Okay.
I need to now, because my knees are, my right knee, that's what I got hurt when I was in. The extra weight, just going up and down the stairs, I'm definitely feeling it. I feel like my balance is off. My clothes don't fit like I want them to. They don't look how I want them to. So now it's like, stop worrying about everybody else. Now it's time to knock the hell off and just and fix it. Yeah. And I feel like with this new change, my job, I feel like it's a chance to basically do a restart.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a fresh start.
I think that's what's going to help me out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Change is good like that.
And what are you going to do then, Charlene? What's your approach to make this fresh start?
Well, I believe I'm going to be changing my work hours. So I'll be starting an hour early and getting an hour off early, even though it's still at home. So I'll have time to actually prepare meals at home. And I'll have time to actually exercise. I have that time now, but I don't make the time.
Yeah.
Even just that 1 hour, I think, is going to make a huge difference for me, and doing the meal prep, because like I said, I've got access to, vehicles, even though I'm losing my company car, which I'm okay with, but I won't have that excuse or that reason to go out. It's like, I don't need to go out. I've got food here. Make the damn food.
Right. And make it easy for yourself, though. You know what I mean? Like have the things there. Make it so it's things that, can be assembled easily. And I think, and some of those bag salads, some of those bag salads, they might be high in calories, and I know everything's all chopped up and vegetables lose their nutrients, blah, blah, all that, right? But if that's a way to start, I'm not saying, you have to eat the whole bag, but you can make a wrap with some of that and some, chicken that you've already cooked and had in the fridge. That's a really easy lunch. So I think that's where the preparation comes into it. What's that?
Spatchcock chicken?
Spatchcock chicken, yes.
So what it's called?
Yes. Charlene sent me a picture of a chicken she'd tried to spatchcock. And sorry, I shouldn't say this. I still, you know what? I think of you every time I do this. And I was like, how the hell did you do that? Instead of cutting the backbone out of it, she'd cut the breastbone out. I'm like, that would be like wrestling a lion. Yeah. And every time I made a chicken before we went away, and I roasted a chicken. I did it on the grill and I spatchcocked it, because I always do that. And I always think of you when I do that. Yeah, so I'm cutting the backbone out and it just comes out so easily. Yeah. Anyway, I never let her forget it. But I wasn't going to bring it up today, but, there it is, hey. But you know what? At least you tried. But you tried, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you tried. So that's good. So, next week, let me see. Hang on, what do we got happening? What do we have happening?
So,
what's happening next week?
Well, we were going to have a chat about next week. We were going to talk about preparation. But talking about that, do we want to talk about what we're cooking this week?
Yeah,
what are you preparing food-wise?
Yeah. What are you
I'm
cooking?
going to have a go at. I saw, I think it was a TikTok or Instagram reel, but an egg roll. So basically, they made like an omelette and then put a tortilla down on top of the omelette before it was fully cooked.
Yeah, and then turned it over. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to fill it with some pickled and crunchy vegetables and things like that, and then roll them up and bake. Yeah, so egg rolls, effectively. But with
you flip it over. So you cook the egg, you put the tortilla on the egg as it's cooking, right? You put the egg
in the pan with some herbs or whatever, start to cook the egg, and then before it's quite finished, you push down a flour tortilla just into the top of it and let it cook. And then you flip it over, and in the section where the egg is, you put your filling, roll it up, and then
I love
cut it
that
up into little dices or whatever. Oh yeah.
See, that you could do ahead too. I mean, you could even do that ahead of time.
For lunches, really good for lunch boxes and all that sort of thing. Actually, if you make a big one, that's probably a couple of lunches. So I'm going to do that this week.
I'm going to try it. Let's try it.
What about you?
I'm going to try that too. I'm going to make a note to myself to do, what are we calling them? Like an egg tortilla roll or something?
Egg.
What do you?
Yeah, egg tortilla roll would be probably much good.
Okay.
I'm going to put pickled red cabbage in it.
Oh, okay.
Like really crunchy, yummy stuff.
Is that something you've pickled yourself, or you buy? Can you buy it? Well, you can buy pickled
red cabbage. I bought it, but it was in a jar.
Right.
Yeah,
red cabbage.
It just in a jar.
I'm buying a red cabbage for this week. That's it? That's all you're making? You making anything else?
No. Oh, well, that was the only thing I particularly planned. I'm sure I will eat on the other days. But, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
I'm going to...
what about you? You've always got a million things.
I know, right? I'm shooting a turkey pineapple stir fry, which has got green beans and red pepper. And seriously, Charlie, this takes like 15 minutes to make. It's so quick. You don't even have to cut the meat up because I'm using ground turkey. So just to make it so super fast.
I thought about putting that together.
What's that? Yeah, it's really...
I wouldn't have thought to put that together.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Cool.
It's got like a Thai flavour to it. And I'm doing that. And I'm making for a treat. I'm doing, and I've made these before. I'm going to put them on my website. Pineapple coconut yogurt popsicles, or lollies as they're called in the UK. Yeah. I'm going to do a mango pineapple smoothie with some mint and some habanero in it, because I just like things hot.
Nice.
And I think the hot goes so well with mango and pineapple. But I'm making huevo rancheros. I want to do that because I love that. No, it's eggs. Yeah. So it's a breakfast thing, a Mexican breakfast thing.
Oh,
so you've got like a corn tortilla or tostada, which is crispy. And I'm actually going to make my own corn tortillas. And then you just cook it till it's crispy. And then you put eggs and refried beans and black beans and avocado and a bit of like salsa or something on. So good. I love that for a breakfast. I'm going to do, keeping with that Mexican theme, a chipotle salmon taco recipe with red cabbage and pineapple, some avocado crema, like making avocado sauce thing to go with it. Also a pasta salad with like a herb pesto, because my herbs survived me being away. And they've gone berserk, so I'm going to use parsley and basil and I don't know, whatever else. Maybe some mint, because it's taken over our garden. With some grilled eggplant and red peppers and zucchini, because we've got so many of them in the garden. I'm going to do that with, pasta and then the pesto dressing. Toss it all together. And for a little snackaroo, I'm going to make some chocolate pistachio truffles with dates for the sweetness. Yeah, just whiz all that up in the food processor and roll them up. Yeah. Plus a couple of other things I'm going to test out, like a Dutch baby. I haven't made one of those, and I've been wanting to make one.
A what?
A Dutch baby. So it's like a giant Yorkshire pudding type thing. But it's, well, you can make smaller ones, I guess, but it's got fruit in it. So you put the fruit on the pan first, which is the best way to make it. And then you make, a batter, pour it in. The pan has to be screaming hot. You heat like a cast iron pan up in the oven first. Pour the mixture in, bake it in a really hot oven, and it puffs up, and you can just sprinkle a little icing sugar on it, or maybe a little maple syrup. But you can put fruit in it. So I'm going to put peaches and blueberries because because we get our peach delivery. Hey, because it was Charlene that told me about the peach truck that delivers all over the place. Yeah. So instead of doing the 50-pound boxes or 25 pounds or whatever they were, and all the peaches would ripen all at once, Charlene, then you had to put them in the freezer. And so what I've done is a subscription. So every week they deliver peaches. So it's like 13 of them. And then and they're ripe. They actually deliver them ripe. And so, that's what I've been doing. So every week, every Thursday or Friday, I get a box of peaches.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And because it's smaller, I mean, it's a little more expensive because they're delivered to your house every week. No. But it's good because you don't waste any. Yeah, and it's exciting, getting that message from UPS saying, oh, your box of peaches is going to arrive on Friday. Yeah, so it's 13. Ooh. Yeah. And I just think it's just, it's easy. Since I've been home, I'm like, I'm craving something sweet because I can't have anything in the house like that or I'll eat it. And I'm like, just have a peach. So that's what I do. I have a peach. Nice. Yeah. So that's what I'm cooking. Yes. Okay. Got all organised. Sarah likes to tease me about how organised I am with my food, Charlie.
Pretty much at least a week in advance, you know what you're having.
Yes.
At least a week.
I know, right? Okay.
So what about your goals for next week? What are you going to...
My goal is to exercise every day because I've kind of got it. You right?
Yeah, I think it's the air coming in.
Oh, gosh, yes. The air, Canada's still on fire. And even though our state sits below... Well, I guess we're one of the Great Lakes states, aren't we, really?
Yes.
But the air quality here is terrible from the fires up in Canada. It's so bad. I can't even see all the way out the back. So it's just haze. It's like we're in a thick fog all the time. Yeah. So the air quality, normally the air here is amazing. We always have really good air quality, even in summer, but not right now. Hopefully it's stopped, but never mind. I was almost going to let the cat out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So what's your goals?
Okay. Stick to the point, Lovoni. My goal is to exercise every day. And regardless of the fact that I currently have a herniated disc in my back.
Yeah, that's not helping, is it?
No. But at the same time, the one thing that's not good is sitting. So you either have to lie or move about. So I figured, I can at least I can go on the treadmill. I don't want to go outside right now because it's just so the air quality. And I can still ride my bike and do things like that. So I'm just going to be careful with the weights.
Just go
don't
gentle.
See anything. Yeah. So my goal, working out every week. What about every week, every day? What's yours?
Mine is I'm going to do the time blocking thing. So the 50 minutes work 10.
Yes.
And in my 10 minutes, I'm going to walk.
Okay.
So that I can get my steps up. So even if it's just walking around the garden or up and down the road outside, but I'm going to, in my 10-minute block, I'm going to walk to help me get my steps up so that I can still get the work done that I want to do, but make sure that those step numbers go up. So that's my goal for this week.
I like that one. Charlene, this is a thing that I heard about, and it's so, it works for me, and Sarah uses it too sometimes, and she really likes it. So what you do is you have 50 and 10-minute blocks. So in the 50-minute block, you're just focused. So you're working, you're not messaging, on your phone, whatever. You're just focused on whatever the task is, whether it's working out, cooking, computer work, and then so I'm constantly setting timers. 50-minute timer, and then you have 10 minutes, and in that 10 minutes you can put a load of washing on, or like Sarah said, go for a walk. There was a week where I did every a day where every 50 minutes for my 10 minutes I used to go and I'd work out in those 10 minutes, and I did that 5 times, so that's 50 minutes, and it was pretty intense what I did because I knew I only had 10 minutes. But, I just find it works really well because I want to beat the clock. I want to get this done before my 50 minutes is up. So I don't know if you've ever tried it. So, yeah, that's something to to think about too.
That's
50-minute
my goal.
blocks. That's a good goal. Okay. Next week?
Yeah, so next week we're going to talk about preparation. I think something we've learned about getting healthy and losing weight is that it's become very clear that for success we need to have both discipline, as we've talked about today, and preparation. So join us for that episode, because I think we can match up to all of the things we've spoken about today and actually create a real recipe for success.
I'm looking forward to that because, yes, preparation and discipline, they go together. And like you said, a recipe for success. We'd like to thank Charlene for being on the show today. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please send us a message if there's any subject you'd like us to chat about, because clearly we're up for anything. Visit lovoniandsarah.com to subscribe to our twice monthly newsletter and find the links to connect with us on social media. Remember, discipline leads to self-confidence, self-esteem, and inner strength, and consequently to happiness and satisfaction. But no one's coming to do it for you. You need to have discipline to stay the course. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, Charlene. Again, it was great getting a bit of an insight into into the discipline in the military, especially the Marine Corps. So we really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thanks for now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.